Okay. Even though just a lemon just splooged in my face.
Well, listen.
I was saying about my last weekend's rant.
If you weren't violating Man Law 69, which specifically says don't fruit the beer.
In Man Law, that is the most important.
Yeah. It specifically says don't fruit the beer, and if you weren't doing that, you wouldn't have been splooged in the eye.
This is a water. I'm having lemon water right now.
It's true. It's true.
It's fair.
He's drinking a Michelob
But all
Ultra.
I was saying before you pressed that button was things that are the most inappropriate are the most fun doing.
Yeah.
Think about it. When you were 16, you snuck out over to your girlfriend's house and...
I didn't do that. I left enough room for the Holy Spirit at all times.
You did not. I know. I know for a fact you didn't. I'm not going to get into graphic detail. But what I will say is things that you're not supposed to be doing are always the most fun to do. That's all I'm saying.
It's true.
Like like when you're cheating on your wife, like I shouldn't be here, but it's pretty cool that I am. Which is why.
Which half of this podcast is definitely not doing, right?
Definitely not.
Hey David, why don't you leave your phone on while we're recording?
I didn't.
That's awesome.
That is creepy as motherfucker.
Bro, did the NSA just turn your shit on out of the blue?
Dude, they did. That is cool.
Is
anyone seeing this right now? Do we have poltergeist activity going on in the Bat Cave right now? Well, anyway, all I'm saying is that like inappropriate snacks is what I want, and like especially like when it's something I don't even agree with theologically. That doesn't make sense, but like in like politically, like if I don't agree with you, like, I shouldn't be with you. You staunch Republican M&M.
So what you're saying is the
you
woker
communistic
the snack,
Snickers, get in my mouth. Ah.
You're saying that the deliciousness of the snack is inversely proportional to the amount of its wokeness.
Well, it adds to the flavor, is what I'm saying. It's like the forbiddenness of it. It's like the apple that Eve bit. It's like all these other apples you can have as far as the eye can see, but that one that you're not supposed to have, you're not supposed to have it. And then you bite it for the first time, you're like, does it taste that good because it is that good? Or does it taste that good because I'm not supposed to have it and I'm doing a dirty thing right now?
So if your theory is correct, I think that Mars Incorporated has made a very big mistake.
The planet?
Yes.
We've made contact?
Yes.
Happy days!
So
Elon Musk is even more of a millionaire, billionaire, trillionaire right now.
For those of you who don't know, Mars Incorporated is the parent company that owns many lovely treats that we have enjoyed over the years. But in this particular instance, it is M&Ms. And I'm just going to read you their corporate statement about M&Ms going woke. That is right, ladies and gentlemen. Fictional, multicolored candy characters are now becoming woke.
Not to be confused with the rapper.
Yes. And so here is the corporate quote, and then David and I will have things to say. Quote, from new product innovations to brand campaigns, our evolved characters in our experiential retail stores will incorporate colorful visuals, inclusive messaging, and our purpose into all that we do to prove that all together we're more fun. That's just a bunch of corporate speak for saying we are totally embracing woke culture, and we're now going to the biggest change for everybody out there is the green M&M. You might remember is a sultry, sexy woman with high boots.
Not that we can tell, because she doesn't dress in anything. She just has the same M as every other character, but she's got longer eyelashes and a little more sass in her fucking voice.
And she's got curvier eyebrows, and she's got more defined lips, and
no
she
hair
has
on
a
her
female
legs.
voice, and
yeah.
It's clearly a female M&M, okay?
Yeah, they definitely.
It's not just any female; it's a sexy female M&M, as demonstrated by the boots. But now, corporate has decided to swap the boots out for more, I guess, gender neutral.
So what that tells me is corporate wanted to fuck that M&M.
And
because
they felt
why
bad
in God's
about it.
green earth?
And they felt bad about it.
Why in God's green earth? You see what I did that? It's the green M&M. I work on levels, people. All I'm saying is that somebody at corporate was like, I want that green M&M. They're like, all right, Steve, calm it down. We're gonna docile her down a little bit, not make her so, you know,
we got to get marketing on
circular
these changes ASAP.
Like, where's the dick on the yellow and red M&M? Why are there with the fucking testicles not dangling between their legs?
They're getting subtle change. Everybody's getting subtle changes. But listen, taking the boots off the green M&M, that was a step too far. I saw at least one Twitter commenter say they have de-yassified.
What's that?
Like Yas Queen.
Yeah.
They've de-yassified the green green M&M, and it's unacceptable.
Well, again,
literally nobody asked for this.
Kind of like woke culture. It just kind of like robs the power from women that were just about to get it. You guys were so close. You were so close. You just didn't have the right publications on your side, and
well,
right
now
fervency.
Here we sit with if David's theory is correct, the M&Ms that
totally bummed right now. He's like, "Why are you guys doing this to me?"
Who's Steve?
The guy that wanted to fuck the green M&M.
Oh, Steve it's gross.
Yeah, Steve.
So if David's theory is correct, everybody, our M&Ms are about to become less.
What happens to our other snacks? All right, that's all I'm saying. What happens to Doritos?
I don't know.
Do they not stay in your mouth for the rest of the 24 hours after you consume them?
It seems that the woke options in the snack world are endless.
Oh my God.
It's terrifying of a thought.
I was tired before. Now, now you're telling me the one thing that was supposed to be just put it in your mouth and forget that you have feelings. Now I have to have feelings about the things that I'm putting in my. Okay,
you need to deeply care and have very, very nuanced opinions.
I have to ask each M&M: were you ever hurt in any way
about the sexual and inclusive proclivities?
Which gender
of your
are
snacks?
you? Which pronoun do I have to call you, M&M, before I place you in my mouth? Because God knows I can hold you here all day because you melt my mouth and definitely not in my hand.
Are you consenting to going in my mouth, M&M?
Yes. Do you consent to this? I'm gonna lick you first. I'll treat you right.
All right. On that note, should we? I
think we should leave this before it gets too tantric.
Should we get to the actual subject matter?
I'm building up a feedback here.
Okay. All right. Well, with that being said, let's jump in. Welcome to Weapons of Meme Destruction Podcast, episode 78, which can be found at wmdpodcast.com/78, but can also be found at any podcast catcher. I believe, this one can go on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just talked about M&Ms.
This one will go on YouTube. So if that's your main avenue of listening, welcome back. But you can also get it on Odyssey and several other platforms as well. But also link up with us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I do have good news to report on the TikTok scene. Thank you to those of you who have been liking, sharing, engaging with our stuff on TikTok, because although I still think we are a little bit shadow banned, the engagement has picked up over the last couple days enough that I think at least if we're not fully unshadow banned, we are moving back in that direction. So thank you. I'm going to stop making...
We're cloudy banned.
I'm going to stop making TikToks about COVID because God forbid, don't want to get banned again.
Just don't say January 6th.
Or that. Well, now we can't put this one on YouTube, David. Thanks
I didn't say which year. God damn it. I left some playability in there. There's only been about 2,022 of them as of tomorrow.
All right, so today's episode, and we have a couple articles to discuss about this because, all of the COVID stuff, as alarming as it is, it really is, for me, it's at its zenith in terms of being alarming when you look around and see the average people buying into the psychosis of it all. And what I'm always reminded of when I read articles like this is that famous Nazi picture where it's like the whole crowd is doing the salute and the one guy has his arms crossed.
We do need to do an episode on that because we've been saying we're going to do an episode on that for a long time. I don't think we've ever done it, but yes, absolutely.
But everybody's familiar with the
Everyone's
picture.
Falling in line and there's one guy
that has his arms crossed. And yes, as as powerful as that picture is in terms of being the one guy who doesn't do it, what's even on the more concerning side, the other side of that coin, is that tyrants don't get their power in and of themselves. They get their power from unquestioning masses that support what they want to do. And we're going to discuss that within the context of COVID in this episode.
Well, moreover, and I think it's even more insidious because all those people that were doing the salute, they thought they were right because they were following everybody else. They thought that they were the right ones because they had the power at that moment. And they were following suit and they were being good members of the population and society, which is eerie to compare that to what's going on right now, if you want to get into the article.
Indeed.
It's parlaying it.
So the first article we're going to discuss is an article from the editorial board of the Salt Lake Tribune, and they had some rather interesting things to say about what is to be done about the people who are yet to be vaccinated. And after spinning several paragraphs lamenting the failures of politicians and failures to lead because they're not continuing mask mandates and this, that, and whatever, they get to this little interesting tidbit at the very end. And it's a short paragraph, so I do want to quote it directly because this is kind of, and to be fair, the editorial board was dragged heavily for this on Twitter, as they should have been. But the fact that this would even go to print in a major publication, like, I don't know, I assume the Tribune in Salt Lake City is probably the biggest paper in the state of Utah, is rather alarming. But here's what they had to say. Were Utah a truly civilized place? Keep a note on that word, civilized. The governor's next move would be to find a way to mandate the kind of mass vaccination campaign we should have launched a year ago, going as far as to deploy the National Guard to ensure that people without proof of vaccination would not be allowed, well, anywhere. So, again, after wailing and gnashing of teeth about all of the failures of politicians, what would make Utah truly civilized, in this editorial board's opinion,
is if we force
to literally hold people in their houses at gunpoint.
Dane, what did they call laws and rules that they were trying to employ before COVID? What were they called? They were called laws and regulations, not mandates. Doesn't mandate sound a little dictatorial to you? Doesn't it sound a little fascistic?
Fascistic, yes.
Yeah, fascistic. Yeah, that word.
You know, it's funny because I don't know the political proclivities of the people on this board, but I would imagine, right, that most of them, if you sat them down and had a beer with them and asked them, what do you think about democracy? They would have the same opinions that everybody at every editorial board in mainstream publications has. Democracy is sacred. It's sacrosanct. We have to protect our democracy, blah, 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 blah. Well, the hallmark of democracy is supposed to be representative government as determined by the legislative branch, which is allegedly supposed to be most responsive to the people, not by arbitrary authoritarian dictate of the executive, which is exactly what they're calling for here. So it's rather interesting, and to your point about it being fascistic, is these people who hold up democracy as this sacrosanct thing that is supposed to be inviolable are always the ones that are ready to jettison it as soon as their particular policies aren't being put into practice.
And if you think that it's farcical to say that, whenever either one of the sides gets in power, they try to implement practicum that will leave them in power, i.e. gerrymandering with Republicans, mail-in ballots with Democrats, and the list goes on and on. Those are just the two for the last two major elections that have been cited as controversial. But if they were truly trying to hold up democracy, it would be a choice. There'd be a vote. There wouldn't need to be mandates. You wouldn't need to hold your lesser accountable or your, neighbor accountable for whatever his deeds were if you both went in and you both voted your opinion and everyone heard it out. But that's not what's going on anymore. Now it's a fever pitch. Now they use your fear. It's not even fear anymore, though. I don't know how any of this is working anymore, to be honest with you, Dan. Most of the people that I talk to that are lucid and sane and working, I'm not saying that those are all need to be connected to be, they can all be equal but divided in any given stance. But like, most of the people I talk to don't give a fuck if you're vaccinated. If they are or they aren't. They just want to live their lives and they want to be able to do what they want to do.
So
period.
In my personal circles, I've noticed the exact same thing, is most people don't care. And honestly, that gives me a lot of hope, because despite the constant and overbearing propaganda hitting people from every single direction about this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated are the reason for mutations, blah, blah, like just go down the list, right? There is still that, I don't know if you want to call it common sense or whatever, but there is still just that kind of innate little bullshit meter that's going off in most people's heads that's like, wait a minute. What I was really told from day one about this vaccine was that it was supposed to make the symptoms less severe if I got it. It was not going to stop me from getting it. It was not going to stop me from spreading it. Therefore, if I want to make the decision to have less severe symptoms, that's cool. But somebody who's unvaccinated that doesn't make that decision. But what I'm saying is, like, the people who are being rational about it, they have still picked up on that. Even they've cut through all the propaganda to pick up on that. And they've come to the conclusion that even if somebody is unvaccinated, it puts me, quote unquote, as the vaccinated person at no more risk, because I've made my decision and they've made theirs.
Let's play with that logic, though. Okay? Let's play with it, too.
Yeah.
I love where you're going with this, because I have the same argument with some of the people that I come into contact with, and most of the people that I'm referring to right now watch form of mainstream media news, whether it be Fox or whether it be CNN or MSNBC. The narrative is always that the unvaccinated people are putting everyone at risk.
Right.
But they fail to see 2 points of logic. One of them you've already addressed, is that if they truly follow their own science in believing that the 3 shots that they have in their arm now, which you were only supposed to have the first 2, if we remember, all the way back 1 year ago, which I know is really hard for most of the American population right now. So they've had 2 shots in their arm, were told to get a 3rd. And once they got their 3rd, they were absolved of all sins. That was their baptism into the COVIDian branch. But okay, so if you truly believe that you're safe with all 3, why are you worried about people catching it around you?
Yeah.
Oh, so the rationale is always, well, they'll cause another variant.
Yeah.
Which, again, goes to my second point of logic. Well, okay, cool. Maybe I can't argue that. Maybe I can't refute that, because you can't refute that because we don't know it. So you're willing to throw it out there as an improvable argument. Cool, fine. But there's a thing called Earth. And it doesn't stop with the USA, and it doesn't stop with America. Those are both the same country.
For the geographically illiterate, those are the same country.
Right, same thing. 2 different names, definitely the same fucking country. There's a lot of other countries, a lot of other continents, 8 to be exact on continents. Countries, not so much. Didn't do my proper.
8 continents, David?
There's 9, isn't there? But okay,
No.
let me.
There's 7.
There's 27.
There's 7.
Is there 23? Are they a part of the League of Nations? Are you sure?
All
okay.
of them.
Okay, so anyway, I thought I could say Antarctica doesn't count because nobody can live
So then
there.
why would you go up from 8? You went up from 8.
Because
you went from 8
I was
to 9.
going to say, like, well, 9 doesn't count because Antarctica, you can't live on it. But I overshot the
So then you
continent.
should have went down.
No, you're not saying my logic.
I don't wanna derail
I fucked up. I've had 1 too many lemon waters.
You know what? By
All I'm
admitting
saying.
that, you have already showed more grace and magnanimity than anybody in politics.
I didn't do my proper
I
homework.
apologize for
I didn't do
anything.
my homework. I used to walk into the
You're
teacher.
a humble cat. That's what we like about you.
What's my name?
That person guy.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Says stuff.
We'll bleep that out on post. But anyway, I used to walk in and hand my homework that definitely wasn't even touched to my teacher and be like, yep, I didn't do that. She'd be like, why? I was like, didn't have time. She's like, why? I said, because I couldn't find time to do something I didn't want to do. Anyway, point is, there's a bunch of other countries that don't have the vaccine. And guess what? All of those countries have a lot of people in them. And a lot of those people travel. And a lot of those people travel to other countries. Oh my God, do you see where I'm going with this? So all those people traveling to other countries and all this, that, and the other, maybe they can spread it. So
True.
If 100% of America, this which leads back to this point, if 100% of America was vaccinated, it wouldn't fucking matter, because the point they're missing is you can still catch it with your vaccines in your arm, and there's still going to be other people that come over here that are unvaccinated, quote unquote. And I'm not even getting into the fact that the vaccinated can spread it too. I'm not even getting into that. Just those two lines of logic. If you are or you aren't, there's still other ways to get through this.
Well, that's true, but in full disclosure of the full strength of their argument, I guess, if that's what we want to call it, is what they would say to that is, yes, there are countries that don't have total vaccine access.
They don't have any access.
The way the United States does.
Correct.
So what they would say is, yes, there are people in those countries who cannot get it because they don't have a choice, but you are a uniquely bad person because you do live in a place with the access and are choosing voluntarily.
And how does that change anything of what I just said?
It doesn't change it in terms of their underlying argument that it's going to mutate in the unvaccinated, but it still allows them
again
to sneer down their nose at you and say you're a uniquely bad person for denying it.
That just proves the point that they aren't looking to solve the problem. They're just looking for a reason to have an other.
Yeah,
which is what we were always arguing
That's
about.
absolutely the
like
case.
And to whenever you hear like the latest talking points from one of these major media things, major media things, I should be more clear. Major media news outlets. Yeah. Just disengage with it right then. Just say, okay, cool. Because they're a member of the people saluting whatever following you want to say that they're saluting, that is eventually going to turn out to be wrong, and they'll never even know that they were wrong. They're saying that the entire country is imploding, but they are an actual practicum of the imploding because they are practicing the same methods that cause the implosion themselves. They won't talk to people that don't see the world exactly as they see it. They hold everybody to a standard that is set by themselves that is impossible to attain by any other individual just because it's your own individual standards. And you won't help anybody that you don't see as one of your own. That's how you lose society.
You're certainly not going to win friends and influence people.
No, when you remove yourself from society and say society is crumbling because of all these other people, no, it's crumbling because of you. Because you won't have the conversation that's hard. Because you won't have disagreements and be the bigger man and walk away from it. You won't have the hard conversation that maybe I'm wrong. So instead of having the conversation that you can be wrong in, you just say that everyone else that doesn't agree with you is wrong, and I can't stand to talk to them. Which is why we've reached a point where I can literally say to some people, I think it's not my right to tell somebody to put something into their body that they do not want to have in their body. And some people,
pretty straightforward,
huge Me Too movement advocates will say, I'm wrong.
I mean, not only that, but so here's another hypothetical, well, not even really, but an analogy. So most of the people that support that, I would say, would self-identify. This isn't me categorizing them as this. I think they would probably self-identify as liberal or left-leaning or whatever the case may be, right? Now, typically speaking, in a different policy, say the war on drugs, They make this argument all the time. Why are we locking people in cages for ingesting a substance? Even if we think that it's morally reprehensible that they're ingesting a substance, what we should do is treat addiction like a mental illness, and we should get these people help instead of locking them in cages. And as libertarians, on that particular issue of the drug war,
we agree.
We agree with the left in that regard. And we would say, yeah, absolutely. You can have your own moral misgivings about whether somebody chooses to shoot up with heroin or smoke weed or drink alcohol or whatever the case may be. You can say that that's morally...
Why do you put such an emphasis on the drink alcohol thing?
You can have your own moral misgivings about that, but that doesn't mean that you should use the power of the state to destroy somebody's life, give them a criminal record, which they basically can't get employed from for the rest of their life, and all of the attendant circumstances. And yet, that same group of people who would make that argument in that context, within the context of COVID, would say, no, inject away, because I command you to. And you're a moral reprobate if you choose not to be injected.
You know what their argument is? You can affect my life by your decision.
Can do the same thing with drugs. That's what the right does with drugs.
I just took your rights away from you because I just boing flipped it.
Because you, in theory, might be able to take mine.
Exactly.
But again, like, this is the same thing.
That's that insidious like doublethink kind of shit.
This is the same thing the right does with the drug war. They will argue, right, that drug abuse is an epidemic, right? And that it destroys families, and the fallout from those destroyed families is drains on society, whether it be, kids that, are basically don't
would have cured cancer, but they snorted
stuff.
coke in high school. So
right, exactly. So in both cases, whether it's the right in terms of the drug war or the left in terms of COVID, it's always the argument of this theoretical problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
You being unvaccinated potentially causes me an issue, or you indulging in heroin potentially causes me an issue. But to prevent that potentiality, we must force you today.
So hold on.
To do whatever it is we want you to do.
Here's a question. How many people were indicted for sexually transmitting a virus?
I don't know.
Okay.
California just made it cool, though.
Yeah, did they? Because
California
here's the thing. How many people were held on trial for spreading a common cold? Another virus that's not... So
the flu.
What? So
50,000 people a year die from the flu.
You used to have to go to work. If you called into work with congestion and a cough and you didn't feel very good, they'd be like, that's cool. I'll see you at fucking 9 a.m., you pussy. Get in here and work, bitch. Brittany. Anyway, all I'm saying is, like, now you call in with the sniffles. They're like, oh, Jesus, stay 20 feet away. Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, there's been people that haven't told other people that they have a disease and have let people engage in coitus with them and given them a disease, and they aren't held legally liable for that. But right now we're having an argument that you can catch a cold, and if you don't do it under the correct auspices, you are defaming freedom. So we have to put mandates in to make us more free. What the fuck are we saying right now? We got to have more rules so that we're more free? Is that what? We got to hold people accountable for catching a cold now, but we didn't then? Like,
and here's the last thing on that first article before we get into the second one.
There's a second one?
Yes. Listen, taking the politics out of it, taking COVID completely out of it or whatever, most of us were raised by people, at least when we were young children, most parents had this same set of advice, right? Don't hit other kids and don't take their stuff, right? And what's kind of implicitly underlying that is if everybody's just running around punching each other in the face because they have a disagreement or they want the same toy or whatever the case may be, that's not a very, shall I say, civilized society, right? If violence is the order of the day instead of rational discussion and reasonable disagreement, well, then your society is going to fall apart. So it's rather odd that these, in a very newspeak kind of way, these people throw out the word like, if Utah were civilized, then it would literally forcibly hold people in their houses at gunpoint for refusing to get a vaccine.
Did you hear all that? Repeat that one more time, please. If Utah was civilized.
If Utah was civilized, then it would literally forcibly keep people in their homes at gunpoint. That's what you're asking for when you're asking for the National Guard.
If it was civilized, it'd have a police state?
Yeah. So, we're just, we are just your friendly neighborhood podcasters throwing out potential newspeak
is that there's a lack of logic on this issue.
You make your own decisions.
Please.
Now.
And if us two mental marginals can come up with that kind of idea.
Now, getting into the more, I think this second article is the more on the nose portion of that Nazi picture I was telling you about it's not really the Hitlers or the Stalins of the world that are the truly dangerous people. It's the millions of followers that don't question what they do. So Rasmussen recently ran a poll, and it polled likely Democratic voters, and they asked them a series of questions. And the findings are rather alarming. So I'm going to run through a few of these really quick, and then, we'll talk about what's going on with that, and then we'll wrap up the episode. So, according to this poll, 45% of likely Democratic voters would be okay with the government, quote, requiring citizens to temporarily live in designated facilities or locations if they refuse to get the COVID-19 vaccine.
You mean what's happening in Australia?
Also known as concentration camps.
Also known as Australia right now.
Here's the next one. 59% of Democratic voters would favor a government policy requiring that citizens remain confined in their homes. So at least it's not a concentration camp. At least they're getting to stay at home with Netflix at all times, except for emergencies if they refuse the vaccine. 48% of Democratic voters, quote, think federal and state governments should be able to fine or imprison individuals who publicly question the efficacy of the existing COVID-19 vaccines on social media, television, radio, or online digital publications. So see you later, First Amendment. I forgot to read that clause in the First Amendment where it said, except in cases of pandemic.
Cold.
And then there was one other one. Oh, here's the last one. Quote, 47% of Democrats favor a government tracking program for those who won't get the COVID-19 vaccine.
Jesus Christ. Like, do you want it? Every time we overthrow an overlord, it's like we start this slow process to build back another overlord. It's like we can't help ourselves. We want to be told what to do. We can't help it. We just want to fucking jerk off, watch TV, and go to bed. Like, we can't be bothered with any of this other nonsense. We can't be bothered with maintaining freedom. Like, my whole thing during that whole argument, we probably said it a couple of times on this podcast, and I'm going to say it again. Whenever you hear anti-vax or non-vaxxers, replace that verbiage with any other member of the population. African American, white, Mexican, or let's play a fun game. Let's play a fun game. Jewish, Christian, Muslim. Oh, now all of a sudden it has a different connotation to it. Now we're holding somebody accountable for other things other than being a member of a religion or a creed of race. But this is what it is. It's a belief. You either believe this thing is what it is, or you don't. And guess what side you're on? I'm not going to tell you which side you're on because you can make your own conclusions. You can draw your own lines. But when you start saying that other people have to adhere to your lines, we're not living in a free, quote unquote, democracy anymore.
Yeah. Period. Or, I mean, more importantly, that not only do they have to adhere their lines, but you are willing to go up to and including imprisonment, tracking, all of, basically, again, use the force of the state to get your way.
And again,
that's categorically no different than you literally walking up to somebody and saying, I disagree with you, and punching them in the face.
Here's the thing, too. And this always escapes people when they're in power. I kept reminding people over and over again when they were saying, well, that election was stolen. That election was stolen. This was 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago. No. He only served four
What
years.
election are you talking about?
4
16?
years. Yeah, 16.
Okay.
So I was again, I've got years on my hand like I've got continents in my back pocket. Anyway, my whole point being
Too many
is that I was I've got more, I've got less. I know it's somewhere around there. My whole point being is like I was warning them, like, okay, you want to impeach him on whether or not he had ties to Russia. That's fine. He's been in there 3 years. Okay, that's cool. You don't realize that the door swings back twice as hard as you push it forward. So now here we are. Here we are in these times where everything is questioned. Your election of this guy is questioned to the nth degree. They call it the big lie on the left. I don't know what they call it on the right. Probably the rigged election. I don't know. But now they're coming for him. Now they're coming for Biden, who's sitting in office right now. And they're coming tooth and nail. So my whole point
when you say coming for him, what is that? What do you mean?
But put it this way. I just heard one of my constituents say that all Fox News does is take Joe Biden's speeches and take a little clip that he misspeaks, and then they use it all day to make it seem like, and they take it out of context and they make it seem like he's an irrational fucking person that's doing something wrong. It's like, oh, you mean the thing that you're...
when you say coming for him, you mean right-wing media engaging in basically character assassination.
Correct. Right, which, I was like, oh, but here's the thing, that somebody on that same side is like, that's just all they do. They're fake news. They don't even know what they're talking about. It's like, you mean the thing that your side just did for 4 fucking years? And my whole point being is that all these people that have power right now that are trying to mandate all these other people to comply with their fucking rules, well, guess what, motherfucker? Eventually you won't be in power. And eventually that door's going to swing back twice if you're lucky, 3 times as hard if you're not.
Well,
and those same rules that you passed to try to extort your power will be used against you at a later date.
This is exactly what I say all the time, is that the march towards tyranny always involves the use of both the left and the right foot. There's this tit for tat back and forth where the left says, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to get it over on the right. And then to your point is that power that they got to use on the right uses it back on them. And it becomes this ever evolving nonstop escalation up until somebody that's a little unhinged, like a Hitler, like a Stalin, whatever, gets that power and really uses it for all that it is. Now, the left's hair was on fire all during Trump because they were convinced that he was Hitler and whatever the case may be. But the point is that the power that they were worried about Trump yielding had been accumulating since Lincoln, and an ever increasing, alarming scope. So, that's the way it's always going to go. This idea that the left and right look at each other and they were like, well, they're the only ones that ever marched towards tyranny. It's not our side. No, it's both of you engaging in this tribalistic crap back and forth endlessly, trying to one-up each other and get one over on the next guy. But I do want to end this episode on a silver lining, kind of a lighter note regarding these numbers. Because you'll see numbers like this sometimes in the media and they'll be like, oh man, half the country wants to imprison the other half. Yes, most of those numbers were at or near 50%. But keep in mind, only 1/3 of the entire American population actually votes. And a fewer percentage self-identify as Democrats. So when the poll says people that are likely Democratic voters or self-identify as Democrats or whatever, 48% of those people might want to imprison others, but that is not a substantial portion of the population. That's the silver lining here, is going back to the Nazi picture. Yes, there are far too many willing to salute whatever the Biden regime has in store for the quote-unquote anti-vaxxers or unvaccinated. But that number is clearly not the majority. And when we look at the UK just the other day, lifting restrictions, Ireland following suit, maybe that gives license to other states in the EU to start to lift some of these restrictions. As that continues to go, you ask yourself, is this politician suddenly wisening up? No. Politicians are creatures of the chairs they sit in. The one thing they want to do is keep the power that they have. And so if they can see the public opinion shifting against them for whatever the policy is, mandatory vaccination, masks, whatever the case may be, once that's no longer politically viable, they will change. We still have the control, not in the electoral sense because our votes don't matter. But if we, the people, just say, fuck this, I'm done with this, we're not doing this anymore, the politicians will change because that's all they want to do is keep their seats. So it's a small number of people opposing us. The vast majority of us that are sane and rational and don't want to hit our neighbor over the head for disagreeing with us, we have the control. We just need to assert ourselves and take back the freedom that was stolen from us.
And Dane, on that same light note, can I give them like a little practicum to make themselves a better person?
Yes, please.
Okay. Just always remember as a member of the human species that you are absolutely a piece of shit. You are absolutely the biggest piece of shit that's ever existed, ever. And every day you'll wake up and try to be less of a piece of shit. That's your goal. Guess what? That's your goal. In a day and society where everybody believes that they're the most immaculate creature that has ever walked this fucking earth ever, and they're entitled to everything that the earth can offer them, bar none, that is where we've lost our way.
Well, I actually love that everybody's a piece of shit idea, and here's why.
Hold on, I'm not done yet.
Oh, okay.
I'm not done yet.
Okay.
So, you're not a miracle. You're not great. You aren't great until you convince other people that you are great. And even then, guess what?
Using your words.
You're probably wrong. You're probably wrong. We're all pieces of shit. We all are wrong at all times. And all we can do is find out the areas that we are wrong and try to fix them at any given date. What has happened in this society is that people get scared. And people think that they're the most important individual because obviously they're the most important individual to themselves because they're little miracles walking this planet. Well, guess what? You're a member of, 6 or 7 billion?
7.
7 billion.
7 billion.
There's 7 billion of you on this planet. Are each one of us miracles? Because if everyone's super, none of us are. So that even by that logic, you are wrong. So just try to do your best. And if somebody disagrees with you, don't just say that they're a lunatic. Take it on you. Maybe your ideas are wrong for a little bit. Have a little fucking
humility.
Reflection, a little humility. Say, maybe I am wrong in this particular regard. And let me try to see if we can find a middle ground so that we can build on it and move forward. That's what humanity has been to this point. Not, I can be an Instagram star tomorrow if I show my pussy. But you're a dude. Yeah, but I identified that I have a pussy. So now everyone has to agree that my pussy is beautiful.
Like, can you say that word 47 more times, please?
Clutch.
Anyway, yes, I'm glad I let you finish because that's, the humility, that's where I was. And fundamentally, that's what the non-aggression principle is based on. That's what love thy neighbor is based on. It's based on humility. You don't have all of the answers. You couldn't possibly have all the answers. And to use the other side of David's coin about 7 billion people, that's 7 billion different people with different motivations, different values, different beliefs, different specialties, different knowledge sets, different perspectives, life experiences, everything. And so their conclusions are going to be as numerous as there are people. So for you to basically be the hammer where every problem looks like a nail and say that, well, we got to have this one size fits all policy for everybody, that is coming from a fundamental place of arrogance, which always amuses me without getting too much more on that soapbox. Because
can I just say one more
people
thing
say
after that?
libertarians are so arrogant and all this kind of stuff. But fundamentally, our whole philosophy is based on this humility that we are trying to ask for the rest of society.
You know what
adopt.
arrogance is? It's asking everybody to throw away their guns and then picking a fight with all the people that kept their guns.
I mean, I would say that's
what it is.
stupidity.
Well, no, it's arrogance. Like, I told everybody to lay down their guns. Now you stupid fucking idiots need to comply with us. Like, we still got them. We didn't listen to you, and you're stupid. So anyway, go ahead and keep picking that fight. Keep thinking that you're smarter than everybody else, which you're not. And eventually you'll find out. And I hope you find out in an easy way. I hope you just get knocked out at a bar and then you're like, maybe I should take a different approach from now on. I hope it's not you look like all those other people that were saluting the Nazi revolution with that one guy that wasn't. And that one guy in that picture was right and all the rest of you motherfuckers was wrong.
That's right.
We're wrong.
So,
excuse me. So where can they find this episode?
This episode can be found at wmdpodcast.com/78. You can find it on any podcast app. Just look for the 78th episode. You'll also be able to get this one. I don't think we'll get banned on YouTube for this one. We did say some questionable stuff, according to the regime. Not
who knows? Who knows?
We'll see.
At this point, we weren't conflagratory.
We're gonna play YouTube roulette this week.
Yes,
we'll see if they digital Clinton us. So anyway, YouTube, Odyssey, but also link up with us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. But most importantly of all, join the email list on the website, wmdpodcast.com, because that is where you'll never lose contact with us if you're on the email list. So with that being said, David, we have some bonus content to record for the supporting listeners. So
I'm going to need
we should probably do that. And then sign out for all these other freeloaders that don't give us money and say we'll see them next Monday.
Don't hodge twin them. All right. You are freeloaders. You guys, I appreciate all of you.
Yes, we love you. We love you.
Keep just giving you a little shtick. But anyway, just stay free, stay safe, and God bless America. And let's keep moving forward.
That's right. We'll see you next week for episode 79.
Got it.